Moisa, Rabat. We are back. With Wu-Sabat. We are back. It's been a while. It's wow since we've done our discussions. I know a lot of people have been asking what's going on, what's taking us so long. We were last on here a couple months ago, back in first week of April, actually. And we've been gone for a year now, at least on YouTube Live. We've been doing our discussions on Clubhouse for those who are familiar with that platform. But it's been a while that we've been on YouTube, and we say greetings to our YouTube family out there. We thank you for your support, and I am so sorry that we've been so long and getting information out there, getting content to you guys. It is so important that everyone stays updated. And so, yes, it is crucial that we keep everyone informed as to what we're doing in the culture of Wu-Sabat, what our goals are, what our objectives are, what our mission is. In fact, that is what today's discussion is about. Today, we're talking about the culture of Wu-Sabat, the core principles of Wu-Sabat. Today's date, for those who do not know, this is May 25th, 2024. It's always good to give a date and time when something is taking place to give the ability to track data. I think that's very important. The master, back in the day when we used to put out books, we used to put the dates in the books. But for whatever reason, since we've been putting out the hereafter doctrine, since the master teacher has been kidnapped, we don't publish the dates on our books. And so I want to put out a message out there for people to let that be known. It is important to know when something was published, when it was actually put out to the general public. That, I think, is extremely important because it allows us to track time. That's how we know the so-called Jesus story goes back 2,000 years, because we have a date, a timeline of publishing, when certain information came out. We have an idea about our ancestors in ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, because they have dates and timelines. Date and timeline is crucial. So I wanted to kind of make that known. So for those who are familiar with the books and the publishing of our books, I'm not involved with that, but we should be putting the dates when we publish information so that people can track the time, because time is everything. Time is one of the great principles of nature itself. You have space, you have matter, and you have time. Time is extremely important to know when something happens, the cycles of time. The master teacher has made that very clear to us. And so I wanted to put that out there. Now, for those who do not know me, my name is Peti Sina Tebtu Re'e. I've been now it's been 35 years, student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher. Known to us as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, also known as Panabab Yananin, who has incarnated to teach us our ancient culture, to reform us about forgotten culture that we as Nagato people, woolly hair, melanated people all over the globe are one people, one origin. And we had one original culture. We call it Wu-Sabat. We also called it Wu-Nawab. All it meant was those who lived in harmony with natural nature. Our ancient culture is we live according to the principles of natural nature. We lived in tune with natural nature, the agreeable forces of nature. That is what our culture was about. Anyone who studies ancient indigenous cultures will find out just about everyone, culture was centered around nature. And when you look at today's culture, the world has gotten away from that. And we argue that's why we're suffering, because we've given up our original culture for the synthetic cultures. We gave up our natural nature culture for synthetic culture. And synthetic culture is governed by the Western world. The Europeans have introduced synthetic culture to the planet, and everyone is doing synthetic everything. Fake this, fake that, fake this. Everything we did was natural. We didn't have fake food. Today is fake food. We didn't have fake clothes. Today is fake clothes. We didn't have artificial this and artificial that. Everything was natural based. Our technology was natural based. And we teach that when you get away from living in harmony with nature and you live adverse to nature, unnatural nature, that's what triggers the destructive forces of nature. It is the cause of all the suffering on the planet, the chaos, the wars, the famines, the natural disasters that is happening, because nature is fighting back. When you defile the earth, when you pollute the earth, when you destroy your own home, the planet, you live on this planet. Why would you pollute it? Why would you destroy it? It's going to fight back. Nature's a living force. The planet is a living force. It's alive. It knows what humanity is doing to it. You do not violate the principles of nature, of natural nature. There's always repercussions for that. And humans are feeling it all over the globe. All of us are feeling it. When you defile your own body, there's repercussions for that. It's with all of the sicknesses that people are dealing with. A large majority of the sicknesses that we go through are self-inflicted because of our behavior. Our lifestyle choices, where we choose to live, how we alter our body, the poison food that we eat, we're the cause of our own suffering. When you live according to your nature, when you're in harmony with your nature, there is no suffering. The suffering comes when you live adverse to that. Now, we used to know that. Now we don't. We used to know this. Now we don't. Unfortunately, we've forgotten our original culture. And that's why the master teacher came. The whole purpose of the master teacher, Dr. Malika Z.K. York, his whole purpose and mission is to re-educate us about our original way that our people have long forgotten. This original culture of Wu-Sabat. That is what our mission is. If our people want to get away from the suffering, the chaos that we see on the planet, then you have to change your lifestyle. The conditions of people on the planet is due to the behavior that they represent, that they live. So if your life is horrible, it's due to the decisions that you're making, the conditions that you find yourself in. Change your conditions, change your situation. Change your conditions, change your situation. We used to know the law of conditions, the rules of conditions teaches us that as long as the conditions are the same, the results will always be the same. These were principles we used to live by. These were concepts we used to know. And that's what we want to get into today. We want to go on. We want to detail. Today's discussion is focused on the core cultural principles of Wu-Sabat. What is the actual core cultural principles of Wu-Sabat? Why? Why am I talking about this? Simply because many students of our doctrine do not even understand our core principles. Now, for those who've been watching my lectures, you know I've gone over our core principles in the past in a lot of our lectures and discussions, right? But this particular lecture, we're gonna focus specifically on these core principles. I want you to use this lecture, this particular video as a guiding measure for it to not only to help yourself be aware of our core cultural principles and how we conduct ourselves, the lifestyle we live, but to help others. Because many people are out there claim to be students of Wu-Sabat or claim to be students of the master teacher, and they don't know anything about the core cultural principles we live by, and they violate it every day. And if you didn't know any better, you think that's a Nawapian or you think that's a Sabian, and they're not really. They might read our books, but they don't really understand the mission, the lifestyle. What is the lifestyle that we supposed to represent as Sabians, as Nawapians? If you're going to call yourself that, then you're supposed to represent something. right? Why call yourself a football player and you never, threw a football, never catch the football? You're not a part of the team. You don't have the uniform. You don't play in actual games. Why claim to be something you're not? How are you going to claim I'm a police officer? You don't have a uniform. You don't have the badge. You don't have the gun. You're not registered with the county, but yet you're going around calling yourself something you're not. Or when people ask you to explain it, you can't explain it. You ask probably 100 different students, and you probably get 100 different answers. Well, today we're gonna make clear exactly what our core principles are according to what the master teacher has taught us, detail by detail, because that is the solution to the problems we're dealing with on the planet. We've been saying this for the last 60 some odd years. The master teachers made it clear. If we get back to our original culture, if we get back to our original lifestyle and stop living the lifestyle of our adversaries, those who conquered us, those who enslaved us, those who subjugate us, those who make us subject to their laws, rules, and regulations. Once we get away from all of that and get back to our original lifestyle, then all of the problems that we've been dealing with all over the globe will fade away. They'll fade away just like a nightmare, a bad dream. It has this duration. And we've been in this bad dream for 6,000 years now. And it is time for it to fade away. So that's what we're going to talk about. But before we go there, we always like to start our discussions with a prayer to our ancestors, to call out to our ancestors for help, for guidance, for their assistance, because we know nothing can be done right unless we have the support of our ancestors. This is a part of our way. We always acknowledged our ancestors. We didn't call on unseen spirit forces. We didn't call on names like God and Jehovah and Jesus and Yahweh and Allah, all these unfamiliar, unseen spirits. We called on our ancestors who we knew existed, because we understand we have a time period in our physical body, but we have a spirit and a soul. The spirit and the soul don't die. The body dies, but the spirit doesn't die. So when our ancestors transition, right, the physical body dies. That ancestor, either one or two things, they elevate it to a higher dimensional realm, or unfortunately for the other ancestors who weren't agreeable, they reincarnate. So you either reincarnate back to a realm like this, a planet like this, which is where you completely not in tune with your nature, or you elevate to a higher realm. And those are the ancestors we're talking to, the ones who are existing on the higher abodes. We call it Nathar. We call them Mozaku. They exist in the higher realms. This is the image. I'm always talking about the image. The master teacher is one of them. He who had to incarnate to re-educate us on our original culture so that we can be reinitiated into our universal family, our galactic family. We're not just here on Earth. You got Nagato people, woolly-haired, melanated people all over the multiverse. We used to know that. Now it's in the realm of mythology and fiction, because we've forgotten our own culture. And we were letting people tell us that's not real. That's fake. That's pseudo. It's not. Family, African people, indigenous people, melanated people have been dealing with their ancestral spirits for eons. Don't let nobody trick you away from our original culture, our original way, and substitute it for these foreign religions that we following now. They admit that the Black African race has been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years before all others. What do you think? We didn't have no culture? You think we didn't have no way of life? Don't let these disagreeable fool you as to who you are. You come from a rich ancestry, but unfortunately, we've lost our way. And that's why one had to come. An ancestor from on high had to incarnate as Dr. Malachi ZKO, inside the body, or as the Nation of Islam would say, in the personage, Allah came in the personages of Master Farad Muhammad. Same thing the Christians say. They say Jesus Christ is an incarnation of God in the flesh. That's all Dr. Malachi ZK York is. His spirit force, his soul force came from another realm, a higher realm. Every human on earth has a spirit force, and your spirit came from somewhere. Either it came from here, this realm, or it came from some other star system. No big deal. No big deal. So again, we do our prayer systems. We call out to our ancestors before we should undertake anything for guidance, for help, for assistance. Right? That's our way. That's been our cultural way for eons. Don't let anyone fool you. Don't let anyone fool you. So we are, for those who know, we say our prayer systems in our Lahaj language, Sabaic, our language, Sabaic, and then I'll translate it for English. So those who are familiar, they know the drill. So let's get started. Baday Kalal Namasat Wufakor Ahmad Kasem Unshalal Put. For those who don't know what I just said, the translation is begin all prayer and thinking as a part of all. I'll say it again. Baday Kalal Namasat Wufakor Ahmad Kasem Unshalal Put. You can see it on the screen. Follow everything I put on the screen, family. Pasawa Wupatara. Panensafa Kawun, Pasawa Wupatara, Z Kawuna Nazula Lehe Enkum, Wu-Sabat Wu-Sabat, Amah Hadayan Shafe'un, Salafu Wudan Tharo, Aju Laye Nafashu Kum, Afuk Sheneh Kawun Kuma, Pasawa Wupatara. This book is the truth and the way. It was sent down for you all from Sabat Wu-Sabat star constellation as a guidance and a healing. From your ancestors and overseers, return to your own, accept what is yours, the truth and the way. Anun tawa ankum lehe panan shafe'un wu alaj. Anun tawa ankum lehe nasui nun. Anun tawa ankum lehe ashuk. Ankum at the salafu nun. Anun at the khadat ukum. Anun talub nasar kuma. And nun talub nasar kuma, and so nun sayim natharo, and so nun salafu nun, and nun atha munwapu. We thank you all for this healing and cure. We thank you all for not forgetting us. We thank you all for Ashuk. You are our ancestors. We are your children. We seek your help. We seek your help. Help us, divine overseers. Help us, our ancestors. We are Musba'u. Anun, Atun, Atun, Amun. All right. All righty then. Okay. So let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about the core cultural principles of Wu-Sabat. Again, for those so familiar with our discussions, I've gone over this many times, and we're going over it again today. Today we're just going to focus on these principles. All of our lectures and discussions in the past has been based on the principles itself, and the reason why it is important, why I stress these concepts, is because, again, when you call yourself a Nawapian, when you call yourself a Sabian, you should understand the lifestyle, the culture, how we live, why we do what we do, right? What it means to be a Sabian, what it means to be a Nawapian, how we should conduct ourselves. That's extremely important, as I was saying earlier. And so that's why I go through it. So I'm going to go through the breakdown of these core principles, and then I'm going to go into our specific books itself, where the master talks about these principles to give individuals a better insight, and so that you have a reference guide, so that you know where I'm getting this information from, so that no one would say I'm making this stuff up. Because some people might say that because they're ignorant to what we actually teach. So I'm going to go over this that I'm going to go through it really quick, right? And then I'm going to go into the data, the actual data, where this information is coming from. Okay, so that no one is confused about, where I'm getting this stuff from. I don't want any confusion, as they say, with that. So, with that being said, the first principle that is extremely important. In fact, our whole culture is centered around the concept of Ashak, right? Or we say Ashuk, and it stands for divine love, right? This is the whole essence of our whole doctrine is centered around this one concept, because existence itself is based on divine love. And we teach that our people, especially woolly-haired melanated people, are suffering because we've lost that concept. We literally forgot about the concept of Ashuk, divine love. And once we embrace it once again, then we will not be harming each other, the killing of each other, raping each other, robbing each other, pimping and hoeing each other, the drug use, the alcohol addictions, the gambling addictions, the food addictions, all of the negative things that we do to each other and ourselves. Once you fall in love with existence itself, you fall in love with yourself, and you don't harm what you love. You're not going to abuse what you love. We've lost that. We're constantly debating and bickering and fighting and fussing and hussing and cussing at one another. Why? Because we've lost the concept of divine love, what that means. We're attacking one another, judging one another, wrongly judging one another. The ego that we have for one another, the hate we have, we just attack. Right now, who they're attacking? They're attacking Puff Daddy, our own people. We did that to R. Kelly. We did that to Michael Jackson. We did that to Bill Cosby. We can't accept that a person has a positive side and a negative side. We can't accept that. We rejoice at their positive side. When you see someone in a negative side, you help them out. You don't kick them when they're down. You don't crucify them. You try to figure a way to help them. In fact, and especially all our people call themselves Christians, that was one of the principles of Christ, right? Ye without sin, cast the first stone. Y'all forgot about that? All these people that get on in the media crucifying their own people claim to be Christians. They all claim, most of them, but they don't follow none of the principles that of their own freaking religious dogma that they talk about. They're fake. So again, our first principle is Ashak. Once we get back to Ashak, you see all that division, all the tribes in the division you see in Africa, all of that fade away. The Crips, the Bloods, all that stuff will fade away. And we'll be looking to be in harmony with one another. We wouldn't look to be adverse to one another. We've lost that principle, and reason being because first of all, we've been under racism, white supremacy for the last 500 years that focus on the white man as God and the black man as the devil. So when you live in societies that push that in your brain every single day, 24 hours a day, you can't help but hate yourself. When you're totally convinced that the white man is God. That's their biggest weapon they've used against us. We are literally worshiping the white man as God. Black people all over the globe worship the white man as God. And if the white man is God, who's the opposite of God? The opposition to God is the devil. And that's why they always show black is bad, black is this, black is negative, black. So when you live in a society that push that through your brain from childhood, how can you not hate black? So that should give you a clue how dangerous and how poison and toxic it is to be raised in an environment that pushes this concept of white supremacy and what it does to the mind. And anyone with a clear eye can see what this stuff has done to our mind. Racism, white supremacy has twisted our brains all over the globe. Black people are desiring to be other than black all over the globe. The whole planet is like, I'm anti-black. Why? Because of white supremacy. That has been the most powerful thing that the Europeans has introduced into the world, starting with the white man is God. The white man is God. You can't get no supreme than that. The next principle is resurrection, family. You have to resurrect in order to restore, to get back into the principle of a shack divine love. You have to resurrect, and that's called, what we call that is learning to open your third eye, become in tune with your spiritual nature, and that will reinitiate you into being goddesses and gods once again. If you don't do that, there's no way to restore your divine love. You must develop your spiritual nature first. So that's why we teach resurrection, learning to open your third eye. Principle number 3 is the wisdom of the Hutri and Ma'at. Our whole culture is based on living according to the teachings of the Hutri. The Hutri is where we learn about the laws and rules of natural nature. Anyone who studies the wisdom of the Hutri will know that the first principle they teach you is all is mind. Existence itself is consciousness, and consciousness exists in many different densities. So because you have the 9 ether mind, drops down to 6 ether mind, all the way drop down to a ghost mind. You have different levels of consciousness. You got human consciousness, you have animal consciousness, you have plant consciousness. We used to know these things. Now we listen to the Europeans talking about consciousness starts with the brain. I mean, you got some of them that says consciousness is it's inherent within nature itself, but that's only a minority. I've talked about that many times before. So again, the wisdom of the Hutri taught us this. We knew this for thousands of years, but because we don't know our culture anymore, we forgot simple stuff like that. And we used to live according to the principles of Ma'at. Ma'at is based on justice. The universe is based on justice. Nature is based on justice because nature has an order. Life itself is an order. Your body functions in an orderly manner. That's all based on Ma'at. Existence itself is order. The Europeans try to teach, no, existence is chaos, because they're the children of chaos. That's what that's why they teach that. Principle number 4 is relationships. As Nagato people, melanated people, woolly hair people, African people, Native, if you want to say you're Native American, indigenous people, our whole culture was always tribal based, live up for and by each other. We wasn't doing this capitalistic thing, capitalism that teaches people to compete, constantly compete, to divide one another. And we wonder why we can't get along, and we wonder why we can't unify, because we send our children from kindergarten to 12th grade. They're taught to be individuals. That's the whole European Western school model, teaches you to compete. The children are constantly competing. They get the better grades, A students, B students, C students. You're constantly drilled. Compete. You're not taught to work as a group, as to solve problems as a group, to develop things as a group. Everyone in the achievement, and why we can't, get along. It's because we gotten away again from our cultural lifestyle, relationships. We used to live up for and by each other. We did everything as a group, like corporations, like the militaries around the world. They know that you have to function as a group. A military couldn't function as individuals. They wouldn't win nothing. And all your successful corporations know that concept. They have to function as a group. But yet they don't want the humans as communities. They don't want you doing that because they know that's where power is. Let's keep going. Principle number 5 is morphic resonance / matrix. Morphic resonance deals with sounds, tones, colors, vibrations. It teaches you that existence itself is based on harmonics. Existence itself is based on resonances. Morphic resonance means that morph means to change, alter. Sound has the ability to change, alter. Everything is based on a sound, a tone, and that's what crystallized into a matrix. Okay. Principle number 6 is Leviathan. This is what we've been at war with. Leviathan is the spirit force of all of the adverse forces in nature. Leviathan are the spirit forces that are adverse to natural nature. The spirits of Leviathan live adverse culture. Those are the demons, the ghouls that you hear about. All of your human demons that are running around, raping, murdering, killing, all of them are possessed by those spirit forces. In fact, all of the horror movies that white people love to make is based on those Leviathan spirit forces. And so when you look at the world and you see all the chaos, now you see that humans are literally possessed. This whole planet is possessed. In fact, their Bible tells you that. If you read Book of Revelations, chapter 18 and chapter 19. In fact, chapter 13, Revelations 13, chapter 12, Revelations 12:7 tells you that the demon, the devil, and his angels was cast to this planet. No one takes that serious, though. It's very real. We said before, they plagiarize the scriptures from our original cultures. The Islam and Christianity, Judaism got that knowledge from our original, our indigenous cultures, from Egyptian cultures, Sumerian culture, that they were the ones who had that information. And the Greeks, the Romans, they stole they stole that knowledge, and then they created a religion out of it. That's why they haven't found the body of Abraham yet, the body of Jesus yet. They don't have Moses' DNA. They don't have the DNA of King Solomon. They don't have the DNA of King David. But we have the DNA of Amenhotep III. We got the DNA of Akhenaten. We got the DNA of King Tut. We got all our African ancestors' DNA, who lived before their biblical characters, by the way. But they don't have theirs. They can't, whatever. Principle, Leviathan. Point is, Leviathan, we call it moon culture, right? This is what created religion. Western society is based on this. It's a death culture. Leviathan represents the forces of death and deception. Principle number 7 is soul force, spirit force, right? We have a spirit, which is a life force. You have a soul, which you call your emotional force. We used to know this, but now we don't. Our people don't even realize they have a spirit, because the Europeans teach there's no such thing as spirits. They've literally convinced our people that that's fake and that's not real. With all of the millions of people who talked about who saw ghosts, or who had an out-of-body experience, who had a near-death experience, all of the spiritual teachers, whether they're in Hinduism, the Buddhist monks, all of them deal with spirits. The Native Americans deal with spirits, astral projecting. I mean, the evidence is unimaginable, overwhelming, and yet we listen to Europeans tell you that no, spirits are not real. That's not people. You see how their system, that when you're possessed, it reduces your intelligence. You have unlimited amount of data on something like that, but yet we'll allow the Europeans convince you that that's fake. Wake up, family. Wake up, right? Principle number 8 is health. And what we teach in health is the first key to health is a positive mind. If you notice, we live in a world where everyone's negative. Everyone is gossiping about others. Their ego is unlimited. When uncooperative, we don't know how to be in harmony with one another. The first key to health is a positive mind. In fact, doctors will tell you stress is one of the biggest keys to bad health. Is stress. You have to have a positive mind. You have to be tranquil. Stop thinking about others in a negative way. Stop looking at yourself in a negative way. When you feel and love yourself, love yourself. That's the first key to health. And as melanated, the second key is as a melanated principle, as melanated people, we need sunlight, a lot of sunlight. The sun is what recharges the melanin, which is what gives us life, that energy. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you that at all. But we have many Black doctors who've explained this, broke this stuff down about the science of melanin and what it does for our bodies. Many of our health practitioners will explain this to you. Do the research, family. The other key to health is water. The body is like 70% water. You can't live without water, right? You need water. Fasting. In European culture, they teach you to eat every day, damn near 3 times a day. The body, remember, we live in the principles of Ma'at. Ma'at is balance, right? So one day you eat, one day you fast. One day you eat, one day you fast. I know it's hard. Trust me. I know we've all been brainwashed to eat all day, every day. So everyone is overweight in America, including myself. We all fall under that. This is what we're fighting. This is how Leviathan gets us to do adverse things. We must overcome it. That's one of the advantages of living in a community. When people are together, you're stronger together. You're weaker divided. When people are together, you're stronger together. You're weaker divided. They know that. Another key to health is the herbal diet. Dr. Saber taught us the herbs. Layla Africa taught us about the herbs. We have many health practitioners telling us what type of herbs we should have. And Saber was saying, being that we're an African people, we come from the continent, we're supposed to be eating the foods from there. We really shouldn't be eating foods produced in foreign lands. It's key to our health. Another key to health is exercise. A lot of our people don't understand the importance of exercise. When we lived in our natural state, we was always exercising because we had an outdoor culture. Remember, European culture is indoor based. We're now indoors 90% of the time. Outdoors, very not a lot. And so our body's not getting the necessary exercise. Walking in the sun, breathing the fresh air in nature, especially with everything is artificial in these cities, right? The concrete, the high-rise buildings, the pollution in the atmosphere, the unnatural culture of the Western world is a toxic culture that perpetuates bad health that causes death and suffering. It's one of the reasons why we teach we have to get away from their way of doing things. It's a death-based culture, and they love it. And they convinced our people to love it. So now we love it. You know, you're in New York City, you're living in a high-rise building, and you're looking out, and all you see is all that concrete, and you're talking about that's a beautiful view. And they show you movies and TV shows that make you think you're looking at a beautiful view. All these high-rise buildings, no grass, no trees, no animals in nature. That is what's beautiful, not the concrete jungle. But they twisted our brain up. One of the greatest tricks of the disagreeable demons is to make that which is good look bad and make that which was inherently bad look good. It's a reverse doctrine. That's what Leviathan does. It reverses your perception of things. The other key to health is rhythmic breathing. Right? The master put out the book, the breath book, rhythmic breathing, key to health, family, meditation, concentration, prayer, and chanting. All of these are spiritual rituals that are necessary for good health. I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again. People learn about the physical things they need to do for health, but they have no knowledge about the spiritual things they need to do for health. And the reason why they don't know is because they was taught that spirit does not exist. You know what? You know how ironic that is? All of these people claim to be religious. And there is no religion that doesn't teach about spirit. The problem with religion, though, they don't teach you about the science of spirits. So you're totally just ignorant about it. People talk about the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, and they literally don't know what they're saying because they don't have the science of it. They just, it's rooted in beliefs and not facts. There's a science to understanding spirit forces. But if you weren't educated about it, you just, in a religious state of mind of beliefs, you don't know. And so you don't understand the importance of spiritual rituals like prayer, chanting, concentration, and meditation. All of those things are spiritual exercises and rituals to strengthen your spiritual ability in nature. We're going to get into that today. And the last principle is pa'ut. That is what we call existence. What they've taught, religion taught you, call on the creative force is God. God is not the creative force. Okay. Our ancestors used the terminology pa'ut. It just, if you're going to translate, it just means all. You can't add to all because where would you get it from? You can't take from all because where would you put it? They'll tell you God is omnipresent, omnipotent, right? Omniscience, knows all. They say that their concept of God is all, but it's not, because their Bible will tell you God was in the Garden of Eden with, Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. It said that God came down and spoke face to face with Moses. Read Book of Numbers, chapter 12. It said God came down, Genesis chapter 18, to talk to Abraham. So that obviously God is an omni. Jesus in the Lord's Prayer said, "Our Father who art in heaven." He said God is in heaven. So it couldn't be omni. Omni means everywhere. You can't put the creator in a location. You are the creator. When you look in the mirror, you're looking at the creator. You look at a tree, you're looking at the creator. You look at an ant, you're looking at the creator. You look at a car, you're looking at the creator. The creative force is everything and everywhere, is of the essence of the creative force. We used to know that. Then we wouldn't get tricked from worshiping some unseen spirit force, which is really what that is. Because they call it God, unseen spirit. Problem is, they don't tell you what kind of spirits. There are different types of spirits, right? Living positive spirits or the deaf spirits. The deaf spirits of nature, which is what they have our people calling on. That's why they call it the Holy Ghost. What is ghost? Ghost is a deaf spirit force. The ghost, when somebody gives up the ghost, they're dead. It's the dead. That's what our people call on it, and they don't even realize it because you've lost your spiritual knowledge. So it's easy to get tricked. And ghost forces, they live off of suffering. And that's what you see in the world, suffering, because the ghost spirit forces are ruling the planet because humans on earth are totally ignorant to spirit forces. We've talked about this many times in our discussions. This is one of the core principles of our culture of being a Nawapi and a Sabian. You have to understand spirit forces. If you don't understand that, how do you call yourself a Nawapi, a Sabian? You have to understand. You have to study that. The spirit that resides within yourself and the spirit forces that are all around you. If you're ignorant to that, you're going to continue to be lost in this world. And that's what leads to suffering, is our ignorance that leads to our suffering. Why? Because knowledge rules ignorance. And those who understand these things, which are the individuals who are controlling this planet, who understand spirits, they're using it against you. So again, the last principle is understanding the creative force, pa'ut, right? That's what we term it. It's acknowledging existence itself. Everything, existence, is a part of this creative force. And once you understand that, we understand that existence is based on cycles. You have cycles within nature. Sun cycles, moon cycles, right? So you have winter cycles, summer cycles, spring cycles, fall cycles. So we know winter is the snow, the vegetation, everything dies, hibernates. Those are the cycles of the death forces. That's the time when the spirits of Leviathan can thrive within nature. Then you have the cycle of summer. Those are the life cycles where the living spirits are able to thrive and rule. And the cycles of nature within a universe, they last for 6,000 years. Now, to a human who only lives 80 years, that's a long time. Like 6,000 years. Yeah, it seems a long time because we've lost our universal knowledge. And it's not a long time once you realize that every human is nothing but an incarnated spirit into a human body, and the spirit does not die. Your body dies, but your spirit doesn't die. Once you restore your spiritual knowledge, then you can't get tricked by the forces of death, making you think that you die and keeping you ignorant about your own spiritual nature. This is why a spiritual master had to incarnate to re-educate us about our own original culture. So existence is based on these cycles we call the SMAT, right? I've shown that and talked about that many times about the SMAT circle. The master teacher put a whole book out. This is the SMAT circle, right? This is actual facts for those who are familiar with it. Number 13, actual facts. Number 13 is called Nawapian Ontologists of Time. And this whole book is explaining about these cycles. We used to know this. It's important that you know it, because then you'll understand the realm that you're existing in, that you incarnated into. What kind of cycle did you incarnate into, which will tell you why conditions are a certain way on a planet that you live on. When you lose nature knowledge, then you won't know why anything is happening. And that's why humans are running around all chaotic, because they have no clue about the realm that they live in. They've lost this knowledge. That's why we're here, right? That's why we're here. So these are the main core principles: Ashak, resurrection; the wisdom of the Hutri and Ma'at, relationships; morphic resonance / matrix, Leviathan; soul and spirit; health; and Pa'ut, or we say the Smat, which is based on the energies Akak. Right? Akak translates to ether. Ether is the creation force, energy source of all existence. Everything is made of ether. The highest form of ether is non-ether. The lowest form of ether is one ether. So like insects, little rodents, that's like one ether creatures running around. Okay? When you look at things like the sun, S-U-N, that's a non-ether being. Woolly hair, melanated people are non-ether children. The woolly hair is the key. The fact that you have woolly hair lets you know that your origin is of non-ether. The other races who have straight hair, their origins is not of non-ether. So the energy or the spirit energy that grew their body is different than the Nagaru, the woolly hair people, the melanated woolly hair. The spirit that grew our body is a non-ether spirit force. The spirit that grew the Mukasu's body, the Europeans, that's a 6 ether, or what we call a ghost force, really. And ghosts are like at 3 ether and below. Now, once you understand those key core principles, right? The goals. What is our goals of a Sabian? Students of Wu-Sabat. Goal number 1 is to raise the self. Goal number 2 is to fight Leviathan. And goal number 3 is the work to build Sabbatia, right? So in goal number 1, we say you must be born again, as Christians teach, by learning the culture of Wu-Sabat and live it. Okay. First is your first goal is to correct your name by choosing a Sabian name and make it known to all. Keep in mind, during slavery, the Europeans, that's a science. Names, language is a science. It's a spiritual science dealing with language and tones. And so the Europeans knew that, if you notice, if you really pay attention to the Europeans, when they conquer places, they always change names. They always change names because they understand the science of tones. And because language connects you to culture, language connects you to culture, culture connects you to spirit forces. So the way they get you into their spirit forces, to get you possessed, is by first introducing their language. And when they introduce their language, it introduces the culture. When you are introduced into the culture, culture is lifestyle. Lifestyle is personality. Person is spirit. That's the whole concept. Spirit comes from person. It's the same thing. Your spirit is your personality. Your personality is how you behave, what you do, what you like, your likes, dislikes, how you think, how you govern yourself. That comes from person. Personality comes from spirit. Spirit, personality. That's the origin of spirits, which is your nature, which is your culture. Personality is how you behave. How you behave is what you do. That's your culture, how you do things. Well, the way you get a people into your culture, you introduce them to your language. Language is based on culture. So if you was to move to Japan and then you start speaking Japanese, you'll start doing things that Japanese do, like eat Japanese food, wear Japanese clothing, you go to the different things that Japanese do. Why? Because what's the purpose of learning the language and you're not going to communicate and associate with the people who speak the language? So the science of spirit starts with language. So that's why we teach, once you become a Sabian, one of the first things is correct your name. Not change your name, correct your name. You got to make corrections. You got to correct what they did to us. but you have to understand the science. If you don't understand the science of spiritual science, you won't know why. You won't know why to do that. It ain't no big thing. They name ain't no big thing, and it is a very big thing. And that's why they made it. They made it their business to make sure that we changed our names and we changed the language, because that's how they indoctrinated us during slavery into their culture. Because they was going to make a permanent slave, someone who permanently was subjugated to them, which is where you see us now, right? Negroes, we're totally subjugated to European culture. And the language is what ties us in. That's key, family, right? So that's raising the self. That's resurrecting, correcting yourself by you first corrected your name, you correct your language, right? You correct how you look and dress, even the clothes you wear. All of that's connected. You must study our doctrine every day, which builds your sound right reasoning skill. That's why you think the master teacher wrote hundreds and hundreds of books to recalibrate how you think, how you see things. Because the Europeans altered our perceptions, how we see things, literally altered our perceptions. Because we really think the Europeans are intelligent, that they're smart. Trust me, we believe this stuff. It's a science. That's a spiritual science they used against us. The individuals who set their culture up, you're dealing with wizards and warlocks and witches. You think that's fake. That stuff is not fake. It's very real. It's very real. That's why they conceal it from you, because they can't tell you the secret of how they have control over everyone. White supremacy is a spiritual science. The way they got everyone on earth worshiping a white man as God. Listen, I don't know what else to say about it. So first goal as a Sabian is you got to fix all of that about you, because all of us have been seduced by that. We've all been raised in this toxic system. And so these are the things you got to correct. You must practice and master our daily rituals to turn yourself inside out. That's how you're going to open your third eye, by doing the rituals, the prayer, the meditation, the concentration exercise. If you're not doing that on a daily basis, there's no way to develop your spiritual nature, family. I've said this many times and I'll keep saying it. Okay. Goal number 3 is to fight Leviathan. So these are the 3 goals. Once you become a Sabian, you're working to resurrect, to correct yourself spiritually. At the same time, you now understand you're at war. We're at war with Leviathan. Those are the adverse spirits that are moving through humans, are possessed with these spirits. It's inside yourself. So that's why you got to first fix the negative part of your own personality. And we all have it. Your addictions is a part of your negative personality. And all of us have addictions. Whether it be food, whether it be, I don't know what it is. Some of us like sports, some of us like clothes, some of us like jewelry, some of us like going out, hanging out, going to restaurants, buying stuff. We all have addictions in this that we got from living in this culture. That's possession. And it's very difficult for us to overcome our addictions. That's why we can't move forward, because of the addictions. An addict is not going to conquer nothing. And you can never stop being an addict if you don't even acknowledge you're an addict, that you've been addicted to this culture. Why do you think the Negro doesn't want to leave the European, even though the European abuses us? What did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say? Why does the black man love the devil? And I think the answer is because it gives them nothing. I mean, that's pretty weird. It's some kind of reverse kind of psychology, but it's the slave indoctrination. Remember, this was during Harriet Tubman. A lot of people she was trying to rescue out off the plantation, that they didn't want to leave. You become institutionalized. What's that movie, Shawshank Redemption, with Morgan Freeman, where they talk about individuals, you become institutionalized. You've been in the prison so long, that becomes your home. That's your lifestyle. You don't know anything better. You're comfortable being in the prison. And that's how we're comfortable voting for white people to rule us. I mean, we like them ruling us. They're controlling the money, controlling every business, every major industry. They control communication. They control transportation. They control healthcare. They control education. They control the money supply, economics. They control the food industry. Every major industry for a human to live is ran and controlled by the Europeans in this country. And we think that's okay. We think that's okay. We think we're doing something when we make a couple of dollars. I'm a billionaire now. They print that money up. It's fake. You didn't realize that? That money is fake. Real power, real respect comes from owning land and being sovereign on that land, being able to produce your own culture. We don't control the education curriculum here. They do. They write all the textbooks. We just brainwash our children every day teaching them that. So we teach them to love George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Queen Elizabeth. They get brainwashed constantly through the educational system, where Albert Einstein did this and Plato did that. All these Europeans, that's white supremacy. And what do they learn about blackness? The only thing they teach is slave revolt, where Harriet Tubman had to fight for her freedom, and who was that? Frederick Douglass, he had to fight for his freedom. I'm like, they give you a slave history as if that was the extent of us as a people. Every people have a good side and a downside. You're gonna let somebody tell you about the negative side of your history and just exclude all of the positive and righteous things you've done? How can you build self-esteem? How can you ever build a love for blackness if all you know is the negative things of your history and culture? Europeans are constantly talking about all the positive things they've done, all the accomplishments they make. They don't let you forget their ancestors. Every time you take out a dollar bill, who do you see? You see them. That's brainwashing. And we're wondering why our people are running around with blonde hair, blue eyes, or as Umar Johnson talked about, the snow bunny crisis. How can you not have a snow bunny crisis? Black men chasing white women. How can you not do it? They've been taught that that's beauty. Their image of beauty has been distorted. Don't let them fool you. It ain't about it's who I fell in love with. It's who you see as beauty. You don't see your mother as beauty. So you don't get a woman that looks like your mother. You're getting someone who looks other than the person who gave birth to you. How does that make sense? How does it make sense to want to reproduce with someone who looks contrary to the person who gave birth to you? No other species in nature does that. Every species in nature reproduces after themselves, because they understand self-love. Only someone who really doesn't have a love for himself, they fall in love with something other than themselves, would do that. And why would you love something other than yourself? Why would you see beauty in something that don't look like yourself? Well, because you've been taught that that other thing is beauty. That goes beyond what, how you was produced, your mother, your mother. You're supposed to reproduce your mother or your father on the female side. So we're at war with Leviathan. These are all the things that Leviathan has done to us. So fighting Leviathan includes working to free Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, right? Because they put him in that hellhole. Promoting Wu-Sabat, that's fighting fighting the Leviathan. Become a student teacher, right? We fight the 6 strongest weapons of Leviathan, which is ignorance, our fear, our ego, lust/desires, lies/deception, anger/bloodshed. All of this is Leviathan at work. Leviathan represents all of these principles. Ignorance puts ignorance in your mind. Fear, ego, lust, lies, deception, anger, bloodshed. All of that are the spirit forces of Leviathan working through humanity. And the last goal of a Sabaean is work to build Sabbatia. We work to support each other in business. We help each other reach positive goals. We help to build our culture, right? Wu-Sabat. We must set up a landing zone for Panatharu in Africa, which means we need land in Africa that would be supported by an African government. We can't We tried to build our community here, as you see. For those who know, they took the community from us. The Europeans attacked us. The Mukaso attacked us, and specifically took our community because they knew that that's the ultimate threat. They're not dumb enough to let somebody really build a community that teaches a culture contrary to Western culture. So we got attacked. And what's sad is our own people. We individuals from our tribe help the dragon. And this is divide and conquer. It's been going on, since we've been dealing with this issue for 6,000 years. We divide among ourselves. We side with our adversary to defeat ourselves. That's a sickness among us. And so we're saying now, you know what? Let's go back to the continent of our origin, where it's predominantly nothing but our people on the continent. We have to set up a community a lot more strategically and a lot more intelligently. And once we are able to reestablish our culture, then we're able to recommunicate with our ancestors who are on the higher realms. This is what people are calling extraterrestrials. These beings are very real. They're not fake. They're real. They just exist on higher realms. In order to communicate with them, you have to develop yourself spiritually, where you meet them mind to mind. And then they can then incarnate and come down, to where we are. But we have to have our own landing zones. Without that, the white man try to shoot their ships out of the sky. It's not that they can't defend themselves, and that's a whole nother discussion. I don't want to get into that because that'll take us off topic. But I just stick with that because we'll get into that hopefully in another discussion. And the last thing is Ashuk is the key to accomplish our goals. Without Ashuk, you're not going to accomplish anything. I was saying that earlier, family. Let's keep going. Now, what does it mean to be a Sabaean? Sabaean is someone who's thoughtful and cares, someone who's helpful and honest, someone who's responsible and hardworking, someone who demands justice and honorable, someone who's righteous and humble, someone who is excited and cheerful, someone who is loving and peaceful, someone who is kind and considerate, and someone who is neat, clean, and orderly. Those are the keys of a Sabaean. And our purpose as Sabaeans is liberating ourselves from adverse forces, right? So every day, we're supposed to be working towards freeing ourselves of these 6 spirits. So number one, you must take action each and every day of freeing yourself of 6 spirits, which are the spirits of Leviathan, that's inside us, and the spirits that's in our family and friends. We're dealing with that. Everyone is possessed with these demonic spirits, which is our negative personality you're dealing with, which includes Black people who are possessed by these spirit forces. We're possessed with them. So we got to clean up our own bad habits and then our family and friends. And so your goal is fix yourself. And at the same time, fixing yourself, be the example you want to see in others. Right? Number 2, acknowledge and fight 6 ether from promoting capitalism, the gay agenda, miscegenation, the so-called equality of the races, and racism, white supremacy. And number 3, learn, live by, and promote the laws/rules of natural nature, and each one teach one. All of these are keys to the culture and principles of being a Sabaean, right? Word of advice: do not judge this doctrine by watching the behavior of Dr. Malachi Z.K. York nor his students. Judge this doctrine by the effectiveness of the information, aka affirmation, that you personally put to practical use. Excuse me. This doctrine is based on self-authentication. Know that we are not preachers, but teachers who are dedicated to answering questions until there is a meeting of the minds between teacher and student, who then can work in unity, which is the only solution to our problems. So we keep talking about unity, love, and then the unity. Once you fall back into divine love of self and kind, then we will naturally come together. Listen, I've been doing these YouTubes for the last 16 years, and yet no one, these lectures had to reach thousands of people, but not one person yet has got to this point of divine love where it's like, you know what, Petty, let's work together on, trying to, get this information out. I've had people, suggest want to help me with my videos and stuff like that, and I appreciate that. And for those who have, I still need your help. I'm so sorry, because it's been on my bad. People actually have, reached out to help. And one brother, brother from London, I forget his name, who's been a great help, contact me. I'm so sorry for those who have been trying to help. So with the lectures, whatever you can do is all appreciative. I'll say that again. Whatever you can do is all appreciative. But we got to take it to the next step. We're in 2024. We're so far behind, family. We're supposed to be really working together. However you can help. Okay. And listen, I'm not free of guilt. Because I got my own issues. But that's why I'm out here doing these discussions, to educate our people. And the ultimate goal is finding like minds. But again, I'm not interested in working with anyone who's still dealing with their negative habits, that you haven't overcome your own personal demons. I'm not really interested in dealing, because I already know what that's about. Fix yourself first, and then we can work together. And that's why I assume no one contacted me, because people haven't conquered their demons yet. I got my own demons going on, but at the same time, I'm focused towards this mission. I've been dedicated towards this mission. I don't need convincing to promote and teach Wu-Sabat. I don't need that. Once you get to that point where you realize you have a burning desire to want to help not just yourself, but your people, right? So that we can build a planet of justice, of righteousness again. Once you get to that point of that burning desire and understand we all have challenges, right? Understand you're working through your challenges, but you also have the burning desire for us to come together. Then reach out. But until then, fix yourself. So let's keep going. Now, what you do for yourself in kind depends on what you think of yourself in kind. What you think of yourself in kind depends on what you know of yourself in kind. And what you know of yourself in kind depends on what you was taught about yourself in kind. That's a quote, powerful quote. Another quote. Until the lions have their historians, the hunter will always be the hero. That's a famous quote. The negative mind talks of what it can't and will not do for self and kind, always complaining about who they don't like or trust, whereas the positive mind always maintains the peace by not complaining about that in which they do not like, but focus on finding solutions to their problems, never allowing obstacles to get in their way of growth. Qualities of a true Sabian who represents Ma'at. Quality number 1 is truth. You must be a seeker of the truth if you are a child of justice, family. Quality number 2 is desire. You must have a burning desire to know the truth. Number 3, willpower. Our willpower stops us from giving up our fight for justice. And number 4, consistency. Those who are consistent are guaranteed to obtain their goals. Number 5, momentum. Consistency creates momentum that builds energy. And number 6 is energy. Energy is required to move your body to achieve any goal. Number 7 is focus. When focus is combined with energy, goals are easily realized. And number 8 is power. When the mind is focused and full of energy, you now have the power to achieve your goals. And number 9 is fight Leviathan. Leviathan is you're fighting racism, white supremacy. You're fighting, self-determination. Leviathan is trying to stop you from self-determination, which is to rule yourself. We lost that. We don't have the desire to rule ourselves, especially here in America. We make every excuse to keep voting for, unfortunately, Europeans to rule us. It's sad. And genetic superiority, right? As melanated people, melanin is the key. That's why they won't teach it, family. The Europeans know melanin is our superpower. Once our people realize the science of melanin, game, set, match, it'll be over. Once we realize that. Because melanin, literally, they talk about the Black Panther and vibranium, that special thing that the Black Panther in their society, Wakanda, has. The vibranium of Black people is your melanin. Your melanin dominant. The fact that you have woolly hair shows that the melanin content in your brain supersedes every other human on earth. Let me say that again. The fact that you have woolly hair, it is a sign that the melanin content in your brain is more potent than any other race on earth. The European would kill himself to not let that information get out. You have Black doctors and scholars who've been putting that information out. Unfortunately, the Black doctors and scholars who've been talking about melanin, and they put out a lot of good information on melanin. In fact, one particular brother named is Carol Barnes. Is a Black man. Carol, Carol, I forget how to spell his name, Barnes. And he put out a book. In fact, if you research Dr. Layla Africa, he talks about Dr. Carol Barnes because Dr. Layla Africa got a lot of his knowledge about melanin from Dr. Carol Barnes, who was a chemist, who actually did research on the melanin molecule back in the 60s and the 70s. This brother was on it. And it was breaking down because he was, he was in that profession in chemistry, and Europeans would hide that knowledge and information. They never really was publishing that data, the science of melanin. Listen, melanin, you can't even live without melanin. You can't even live on a planet without, everyone has it. The only difference between humans is the quality and the amount of the melanin. So when you look at the European, they're melanin recessive. They have very low limited qualities of it. Very low. We as Nagato have the highest qualities of it. Every species in nature has, if you have color, you have melanin. The purest quality of melanin is vegetation. Chlorophyll is melanin, family. They won't tell you that. Chlorophyll that makes the plants green, the green grass, that is the purest form of melanin. That's why your ancient ancestors used to be green. The reason why we're brown today is because our melanin became toxic. Our melanin has been toxified. One of the things the master teacher came here to teach is how to detoxify your melanin, to purify it. Once you truly, once we truly understand the science of melanin and we literally detoxify our melanin, we would turn back to green. This brown in our blood, because we have all this iron content in our blood. Our blood basically has to be purified and refiltered. That's a science that they will do anything to hide that. Once you purify your melanin, because no one has the melanin content as the Nagato, as the African. No one on earth. Once your melanin is purified, you literally become godlike. And I mean, literally, we become godlike. We have ability, like they show you in the comic book movies, the X-Men and all that stuff. You literally have those abilities in nature. We literally been poisoned for the last 6,000 years. Our melanin is toxic. And the food that we eat keeps the melanin in a toxic state. It's sugar and salt are the key toxic ingredients to melanin. And that's why the dragon puts sugar and salt in everything you eat. You can't eat anything without sugar and salt content. And it literally toxifies your melanin. Look it up. Look it up. And the master put out 2-3 books on the topic. He put out a book on melanin in the 90s, right? The master teacher did. And we just put out a book, not too long, about a decade ago, on melanin. That's key. All right, how to make decisions, right? Right knowledge decisions, which is Wu-Sabat culture-based. Our decisions should be rooted in peace and divine love, right? So you have 4 classes of decisions that a human being makes. I've spoken on this before. There are 4 classes of decisions that a human being makes. So you have the 9 mind, and you have the 6 mind. The nine is the positive, the 6 is the negative. So the nine mind decisions, the first 2 are nine mind, the last two, because there's four classes of decisions that humans make. Okay, class one is something that feels good, is good for you, is good for others, and serves the greater good. So that's the ultimate form of decision. When you make a decision, something that feels good. So let's say something I don't know, it could be exercise, feels good, right? Is good for you, is good for others, and serves the greater good. That's a class one decision. When you're making decisions like that, that's the ultimate of decisions that a human being can make. Something that feels good, is good for you, is good for others, serves the greater good. Now, class two would be something that does not feel good, but is good for you, is good for others, and serves the greater good. That's a class two. So exercise, again, some people hate it. It does not feel good, but it's good for you, it's good for others, and it serves a greater good. So class one and class two, those are class one and class two based types of decisions. And so you have to analyze your, I've talked about this before, self-audit. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, you're making decisions every single day. It's what determines the quality of life you have. And you have to identify, are you making class one and class two type decisions throughout the day? Or is your decisions class three, class four? Class three and class four decisions is the opposite. Class three is something that feels good, but is not good for you, is not good for others, and does not serve the greater good, right? That's like all the toxic food we eat. We love it. It may feel good to you, but it's not good for you, it's not good for others, and it surely don't serve the greater good. That's what all the addictions are based around that. Because most addictions that we have, whether it be food, drugs, certain types of behavior patterns, we do it because we like it. It feels good, but it's not good for you. And it surely is not good for others, and it does not serve the greater good. And the worst decision to make is a decision that does not feel good. That's a class four. It does not feel good. It's not good for you. It's not good for others, and it does not serve the good. That's certain jobs that people have that hate their job. They hate their job. It's a horrible job that you're doing. It's not good for you. It's not good for anyone to be doing it, and it surely don't serve the greater good. Many people have those kind of lifestyles. Many people make decisions like that. So you need to analyze your decisions. The class one and class two type decisions you're making is what's going to lead you towards resurrection. It is a class three and a class four that keeps us in bondage, slaves to our addictions, family. Another thing, this is a quote from the master teacher. This quote comes from the Nine Ball. If you read the book, The Nine Ball, part one, this is like one of the last paragraphs. The master says this. He says, all power begins in the mind, be it political, economic, military, or scientific, because the body is just a framework and tool for the mind. Therefore, the prime power is mind power, from which all other powers develop and mature, including the power of liberation. Nine ether develops nine reason, and nine reason develops nine knowledge, and nine knowledge develops the nine mind power, which is a prerequisite to woolly hair, nagato, mental, and physical liberation. So the master taught us you have to learn how to harness nine ether into the body. That's why we do the spiritual rituals, right? Is to harness nine ether. And once you learn to harness nine ether is what gives you nine reason. Your ability to reason, your ability to make intelligent decisions. Once you practice the rituals, the prayer, the meditation, the concentration exercises, you're generating ether into the brain, into the mind. That's how you increase your intellect, your intelligence. And as your brain synapses produce more energy in the mind, in the brain, it expands your ability to reason. It connects you with nature itself. That's how you develop the nine mind. That's how the master gets his affirmation, because this energy is being processed into his mind. He knows how to pull in the energies from the universe. Read the book, Actual Facts number 18, sound, tones, and vibrations and frequencies. The master talks about how these energies are constantly coming from space into the planet Earth. Energies, ether energies. And he talks about this is how he gets information. These energies, he knows how to harness them into the body. The problem with humans, us as Nagato people, our body is in an adverse polarity. Your body either can take in energy or release energy, right? We used to know how to pull energy into our body and release energy from our body in a balanced way. Now we don't know how to do that. So when you're pulling in energy into the body that recharges and renews the body energy, that's when you go to sleep. That's how humans the bodies get recharged, is when you put your body in a sleep state, you're pulling in energies into yourself. It's when you awake, you're now releasing energy, because you have to release energy to move your body. You have to release energy when you have thoughts moving through your mind. That's why in meditation, it teaches you to clear your mind of all thoughts. You got to go into blackness. And when you shut all the thoughts down, it allows the energies from the universe to now flood the body with new energy, which is new data, right? But in order to do that, meditation teaches you to shut the consciousness, shut your mind. Your thoughts you have to shut it down, almost like when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, the conscious mind shuts down. That's why the subconscious is able to boot up. And that's why people dream. When you're dreaming, that's the subconscious at work. Okay? But when you become conscious again, the subconscious shuts down. You still have access to it. You just don't know how to have control over it. That's why humans, you don't retain your memories, because everything is stored in the subconscious. But you have to develop yourself spiritually to learn how to access your subconscious at random. We used to have this knowledge and abilities. We've lost it. Last code of principles is, and this is how you correct your DNA, right? These are the rules and laws of natural nature. I wrote down I have about 19 that has huge impact on us as humans, right? There's infinite laws of nature, rules of nature. They're infinite, but the key is, what are the rules that affect humans the most? That's what some of the rules that have a huge impact on us. I put down. So number one is mental, right? The wisdom of Tahuti, that's the first rule in the wisdom of Tahuti, is all is mind, all is mental. Okay. All is mind. Without consciousness, how would you know we exist? The mind controls all. You can only do what you know. Right knowledge or wrong knowledge will result in positive or negative results. Number two, preservation of self and kind. Life is precious and to be cherished. Honor your mother and father, for how else could you exist without them, right? You could not exist without your kind. You exist because your mother and father exist. They exist because their mother and father exist. So that's why the principle of it's not just self-preservation. The European teaches self-preservation. Worry about yourself. Care about yourself. Don't worry about thinking about nobody else. That's what they teach. No, we teach is preservation of yourself and your kind. Okay? Because we realize you couldn't exist without your kind. Principle number 3, opposites. You can't have up without down, right without wrong, fast without slow, positive without negative. Nature is based on these opposites. We used to know that. Principle number 4 is pain and pleasure. All work and no play, or vice versa, would create an imbalanced being. For these two poles create balance within the human being. Keep in mind, we mean positive pleasure and pain. So for instance, you can't, you can't work all day just as much as you can't rest all day. You have to balance that out. Okay. So it is pleasure. You can't exist without pleasure just as much as you can't exist without rest or work. You have to balance your pains and your pleasures, right? It's let's say pleasurable from the effects of working out, right? Your body looks good, you're feeling good, that's the pleasure. But the pain was working out, the sweating, the running, the jogging, the lifting the weights, that's the pain. But what they say, no gain without pain, right? No gain without pain. And so they have to be balanced. We used to know this. Again, we're not taught this. They'll tell you eat till you drop. They'll tell you to balance out the way you eat. One day you eat, one day you fast. One day you eat, one day you fast. You have to balance things out. When you don't do that, it creates an imbalancement, and that's what creates the chaos, the sickness, the illness, the chaos you see in the world. The European based everything based on imbalance in his society. He wants to hoard all the money, all the wealth, all the power, while the masses of people in poverty. That creates an imbalancement in society. That's how you know his system is chaos. His system is rooted in chaos because it literally creates an imbalancement. That goes back to the code of the opposites, right? Another principle is Ashak Wu Hatat, right? Divine love and peace. Becoming one with nine ether puts one in a state of harmony and bliss, which gives birth to the nine mind that rules all. That's how you tap into your divine mind. Once you connect into the creative force, that's Ashak. You're in a state of harmony. That's what I said in meditation, you have to shut down your thoughts, right? You have to shut down your thoughts in order to make contact with you have higher levels of mind. There's layers of your mind. That's what we talk about the superconscious mind. The master tells us about. That's in the Science of Healing scroll. He talks about the superconscious mind. Actually, he talks about it in Actual Facts number 18 also. The tones, vibrations, and sound, vibration, sound, frequencies. That scroll talks about it too. You have the superconscious and you have the normal conscious mind. Okay, you can't connect to the superconscious mind because of your normal level of conscious blocks it. So meditation is a technique on how to tap into that, but you have to shut down the conscious mind. That's why they say meditation is a form of sleep. It's called conscious sleep because when you fall asleep, your conscious mind shuts down. Well, meditation is you're basically doing that consciously, though. You're shutting down your thoughts and you go into blackness. Now, of course, it takes time to build that up. It takes about 30 days for the body to get used to it, 90 days for you to master it. Not master it, but you have if you're consistent for 90 days, you understand meditation and you will get the benefits of it. And your mind will start getting flooded with data. And you'll see that your consciousness expands, your memory expands, your ability to make decisions and reason will increase. There's a science to it, family. And no one can meditate at the level of an African, of a Nagato, because remember, the melanin content in our brain, your pineal gland produces melatonin. Melanin is the key to tapping into the higher realms. We have the purest form of melanin on Earth as an African race. I said it before. That's why our hair is woolly, and they'll never tell you. They'll never tell you why our hair. Why does our hair curl the way it curls? It's because of the energy, the electrical energy in the brain. Remember, fire curls hair. If you take a strand of hair, take a straight strand of hair, right, and put fire underneath it, and you'll see it curl. And curl, that spiral, that is the symbol of creation itself. Is a spiral. So why when you look at a galaxy, you have this spiral thing. Everything in nature operates in that, this spiral. Cycles. It goes back to cycles. Principle number 6 is polarity, right? Hot turns to cold. Cold turns to hot. Existence is based on polarities, always shifting from one position to the next. So you have extreme cold and extreme hot. They're the same thing. They're different principles of the same thing. Okay? So those are the polarities from extreme cold to extreme hot. So when you look at the black man and the white man, we are exactly the same. We're just different polarities of the same energy. So we say our polarity is 9 ether, their polarity is 6 ether, the opposite, but it's still ether. It's just the quality and the amount of ether. That's what makes us different. And so we have different polarities, and you see that within nature. Nature has different polarities, energies. Some energies are more potent, others are weaker. There's the difference in the polarity between things in nature. Number 7 is conditions. If conditions are the same, the results will always be the same. So if you find yourself consistently stuck in a situation, it's because the conditions that created that situation has not changed. Changing your condition equals changing your results. Okay? So we used to know the law of conditions or the rules of conditions. That's how you identify the differences in nature. You know, that's how you know a rule or law in nature is because of the conditions. If the conditions keep repeating itself, that's a rule. Like if you jump off a building and you fall down, that the results will always be the same. You get on the building, you jump, you fall. You get on the building, you jump, you fall. That if it keeps repeating itself, that's a rule in nature. The only way the rule will change if the conditions change. You change the conditions, you change the results. But if the conditions are the same, the results will always be the same. We used to know these things. This is science that we've lost, family. Number 8, attraction and repulsion. We attract and repel energy each and every day in order for our bodies to function efficiently. The sun versus the earth, man versus woman. So the body, it attracts energy into it just as much as it releases energy. That's why the body, you have to take food in, right? You got to take it in and you release it. Your body releases the waste process. So there's an attraction force of pulling something to you and a repulsion force of releasing things from you. Okay. The principle of melanin. Melanin is designed to attract energy, whether good or bad. We must learn to harness sun energy and not bad energy that comes from cell phones, computers, TV, radio. So you have melanin is a molecule that's designed to harness energy. That's why melanin is so key. That's why they don't want to talk about it. They just say melanin is skin color. Melanin is not just skin color. First of all, that's profound in itself. Skin color, the key color. Color is light, vibration. Stop letting them trick you. They're calling you color people. Color is light. The reason why you see color with your eyes, you're looking at light energy. So depending on the color of something will tell you the energy of that something. The darker the color, the more energy it has. The darker the color, the more energy, because black is the source of all color. Everything comes from blackness. So don't let him. When he's calling you dark, he's admitting, when they say you're dark, they're admitting you have the most energy. Your body generates the most energy. What do you think is an accident that you have LeBron James or Serena and Venus Williams or Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson or Mike Tyson? The list is endless of Black people who've shown extraordinary energy in their abilities to do things. The way we dance, the way we sing, we have an energy signature that no other human on earth has. That's called power. All power is rooted in energy, family. And Nagaru people, African melanated woolly hair people, are able to harness the most potent, profound, powerful energy in all of existence. No one can harness energy the way we are. The darker you are, the more energy you can harness. That's what the master was talking about. Pure Africans, they're whole souls, and us so-called African Americans or Black people in the diaspora are half souls because we've all been mixing in. Hell, they'll tell you the African American got like 20% European DNA. We've been diluted. Our energy has been siphoned from us. It's one of the reasons for slavery. The European has been harnessing our energy, our life force energy, our soul energy. Melanin is one of the keys to that. We used to know. That's why it's a key principle to understand this principle in nature. Number 10, rhythm. Learning to breathe in rhythm will enhance our internal energy as well as put us in tune with our bodies and the earth's magnetic field. That's why life is breath. There's no life without breathing. Rhythm, when you learn to breathe in rhythm, right? Everything has a rhythm, an in and an outflow, an in and an outflow. You see it when we dance. That's why they say Black people have rhythm. You see it when we sing because we have a harmony to our singing. That's why we created rap music, because we're a rhythmic people, because nature has a rhythmic essence to itself. It's an inward and an outward. That's rhythm. Something goes in, then it comes out, in and out, rhythm, right? That's a flow. That's what the breath is all about. Breathing, you breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in, you breathe out. That's why we teach. Once you learn to breathe in rhythm, that generates energy in the body. It literally harnesses energy. It recharges and strengthens the body. There's a science to it. I can't go into it right now. It has to do with your nervous system, has to do with your sympathetic system, the sympathetic nervous system, right? Which is the back of the body, in the back, where your spinal column is, where you have what is known as the cerebral spinal fluid. Your brain is flooded with this thing called cerebral spinal fluid that moves. This is fluid that moves all through the brain and along your spinal column. Okay, cerebral spinal fluid, and it's coated with melanin. Is what allows us to move the way we move, where other humans on Earth can't move the way we move. There's a science to that. Hopefully, we'll get into that another time. Next, vibration. All things move. Nothing is still. Once you become one with the vibrations of your body, you will be able to raise or lower it at will, giving you the power to turn yourself inside out. This is what we call morphic resonance, deals with the concept of vibration. Everything that exists is vibration. Nothing stands still. Vibration is life. When things are still, that's what produces death. So you dealing with the elements of nature, the subatomic elements of nature, right? Everything is made of elements. You have the periodic table, the electron, proton, neutron. You have the first element is hydrogen. They now know and prove, scientists have proved in the lab that these electrical or small particles all vibrate and they all move. Okay. And everything in nature is made of these particles, including your human body. So everything is made of these vibrations and motions. So nature itself is based on these vibrations and motions. Because we're melanin dominant. And remember, I said melanin harnessed energy. So you're able to tap into the different vibrations within nature. Something we can do that other humans can't do at our level. We have the greater capacity to tap into different energies beyond any other human on Earth. This is why they toxify our melanin and make sure we remain toxic. So in our neighborhoods, they feed our people poisoned food. It toxifies the melanin, it destabilizes you. And you see this destabilization with our people all over the globe. It's like keeping us sedated. So we're not effective. We're not reaching our actual potential. Number 12, cause and effect, the principle of cause and effect, right? Remember, for every cause, there will always be an effect, whether positive or negative. All effects are the results of a cause, either known or unknown, right? That's why we say in our culture, we live by the principle of fate. If something happens, it happened because it was supposed to happen. Because for every effect, there was always a cause, whether you understand it or not. There's a science to that, not faith that religious people have, blind faith where they believe in the unknown, nothing substantiated, no facts, no nothing. No, fate, F-A-T-E, right? Where you when something happens, it only happened because it was supposed to happen. Whatever happened in your life, it was supposed to happen. It's not by chance. It's by fate. You know, so if you want to control your fate, those who are in tune with nature have control over their fate. When you're out of sync with nature, you don't have. So things happen to you, you don't realize why. Like what's going on, unfortunately, people in Gaza, the Palestinians who are getting their butts kicked by the psychopathic, you know, people in Israel. You know, the harm that's being done is sad. You know, but that's fate. And, you know, people say, man, you know, that was supposed to happen. It's either something you did or something you did not do. Right now, of course, if you listen to the Israeli government, they say, well, the reason why the suffering that's going on in Palestine and Gaza is because of what these people did. Whether that's true or false, you know, I'm not getting into whether it's true or false. I'm getting there's a cause for everything, even the suffering that we see in the world. The person who's born with a handicap, they're born blind, or they're born crippled, or they're born a paraplegic. There was a reason for that. There's a science to it. And all I'm saying is, if you don't want to suffer an adverse fate, right? The only way to escape that is to be in harmony, in tune with nature. Only the adverse fate things take place in our life. The death, the suffering, the chaos is because we're not in tune. We're not in harmony. We're not moving with the rhythm of nature itself. When you move with the flow and rhythm of nature, you won't get caught in the blizzard. You won't get caught in the tidal wave. You won't get caught in a tsunami. You won't get caught in a hurricane because you was in tune with it. You notice when they talk about a hurricane is coming or some natural disaster coming, you see the animals running. Well, how do they know ahead of time? How does these animals know ahead of time? Because they're in tune with the earth. When you're in tune with the earth, you know when the forces, the energies are changing. And if there's a tsunami about to happen, that's a huge energy field that shifting in the earth. A hurricane, a tornado, an earthquake, only species that are in tune with these energies will know how to avoid it. So what I'm saying is the suffering that you see that we're dealing with is because we're out of tune. We're out of sync. And the source of being in tune again is your melanin, people. That is your source of reconnecting with nature again. But you have to detoxify your melanin. The only way to detoxify your melanin, you have to give up the bad habits we've learned here in the West to learn to purify your melanin. That's why I gave you people to look up. I said Dr. Layla Africa, he deals with melanin. He put out a book on it. You have the other Dr. Carol Barnes, he has a book on melanin. There's a sister, Ann Brown. Look her up. She's on YouTube, Ann Brown. And she did research on melanin research. There's others out there that told you about, they don't understand now. And let me make this disclaimer. They don't understand the spiritual concepts of melanin because they don't have a spiritual insight like that, but they talk about melanin from a physiological perspective, right? How, the importance of the human body. That's what separates, of course, the master teacher, because he's a spiritual master. And remember, when you say spirit, we're talking about energy, right? Life force energy. I want to make that clear. He's in tune with these higher forms of life force energy. Okay, we're talking about ether energy. Our people are not in tune with that. A lot of it has to do with the European educational system that miseducated our people, and so they don't really understand this. They have some knowledge. They have like a superficial knowledge of it, but they don't understand the different energies. That's why, we always talk about and introduce you guys to the smack circle. These are the different energies that a universe goes through. And when you have each universe is locked into a specific energy signature. So we live in a universe whereas it was emitting this 3 ether energy, ghost force energy, right? And we're moving from 3 ether into 4 ether, but the whole universe is vibrating like that on the same resonancy. The master called it nutational rate. Read the book, Actual Facts number 17. The master talks about nutational rates. Each universe, because we live in a multiverse, has its own nutational rate. So if we live in a universe that's operating on the 3rd density, there'll be another universe, a parallel universe that's operating on the 4th density. You have another one operating on the 5th, 6th, all the way up to 9. And so because of our melanin, our melanin allows us to tap into these different frequencies, the different nutational rates. That's why we can communicate with an ancestor that might be on the 6th density, or an ancestor that's on the 7th density, or again, Riskians, they're 9 density beings. So we can communicate with beings all the way up to 9. We're the only humans on Earth that can do that. No other people can do that because they don't have the 9 ether energy signature that we have to communicate with the Natharu. But we first have to realize the body, you have the physical body, spiritual body, physical body, spiritual body. I've said this many times. I always recommend, the Doctor Strange movie, right? The Doctor Strange movie. Excellent movie that addresses this concept. You have the master and the student. You have the master and the student. You have the master and the student. The job of the master, in order to have a master, let's deal with that real quick. Where does this concept of master comes from? Because when it got to the Mukaso, the Europeans, right, they took it master slave, not master student. We're the ones that introduced the concept of master student. So in ancient Kemet, the master was called a Nabab. A Nabab. That was the master. A Nabab meant you were a spiritual master, one in tune with the different energies in nature. You are a master of the different energies of nature. You are a Nabab. When the Mesopotamians got hold of this doctrine, when the Europeans got hold of this doctrine, they took that concept of Nabab, master, from us, the Africans, and they translated in their Bible, right, the Hebrews, and they called it Rab, R-A-B, Rab. That's where the word rabbi comes from. Rabboni. That's where it comes from. And it meant master, right? But they copied it from us, Africans. We use the word Nabab. And it meant master, one who was in tune with the different energies in nature, who was a master of these different energies and frequencies, who was teaching their students how to tap in. So that's why reading the Bible, it said Jesus was able to do all these miracles because he was a rabbi, a master. He was in tune with different forces. That's where it came from. When the Europeans got a hold of it, it went from Rab to Lord. That's why they translate in English, they translate the word Rab in Hebrew to Lord in English. Landlords, the lords and the serfs in Europe. And they serfs were the servants. So they changed it from relationship, or what they call master and slave. Because the difference between a real Nabab was to teach the student to become a Nabab or a master. When the Europeans got it, their concept of I'm master, you're slave. And so the goal here is the master rules the slave forever. The slave stays a slave forever. You see, 9 ether mind, 6 ether mind. 6 always reverses what 9 does. They take what we did and they reverse it and they flip it around. That's why a lot of our people don't like to call, why are you calling this guy master? Why are you saying master? He's not my master. And because they're thinking like the European, we think like the Mukasa, we think like them. Because we've lost how we perceive things. We used to understand the master-student relationship. That's what this Doctor Strange movie is trying to introduce you to. And the master is a spiritual master. So when you check it out, check it out. And I've showed this. If you haven't watched it, you really should study this movie because it's deep. The Doctor Strange movie. They get into a lot of concepts dealing with spirituality, multiverses. This stuff is real, family. It's not fiction. This is real. It's very real. The student, the master-teacher relationship concept. It's a very real concept. But I want to play this clip where she goes into it. Listen.
You spent your whole life trying to widen that keyhole, to see more, to know more. And now, on hearing that it can be widened in ways you can't imagine, you reject the possibility.
No, I reject it because I do not believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief. There is no such thing as spirit.
You heard that? No such thing as spirit. That's what the Europeans teach. There's no such thing as spirit. That's their philosophy. And they've been pushing it. Family, don't fall for that. As African melanated people, we've been dealing with spirit forces for eons. We've always understood spirit forces. The Europeans push that. No spirit. There's a reason why they don't want you understanding spirits, because once you understand the science of spirits, then you can stop getting possessed. That's why I said before, that's why we all have all these addictions, these bad habits. That's spirit being possession, family. Keep listening.
We are made of matter and nothing more. Just another tiny momentary speck within an indifferent. Just another tiny momentary speck within an indifferent. Just another tiny momentary.
You think too little of yourself.
Oh, you think you see through me, do you? Well, you don't. But I see through you.
Hold on, the video's running slow. It's not in time. Let me see if I can redo it and get it in sync so you can watch the whole thing. I've showed this before.
In ways you can't imagine.
Here we go.
You reject the possibility.
No, I reject it because I do not believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief. There is no such thing as spirit. We are made of matter and nothing more. Just another tiny momentary speck within an indifferent universe.
You think too little of yourself.
Oh, you think you see through me, do you? Well, you don't. But I see through you.
So now the physical body separates from the spiritual body, or the spiritual body separates from the physical body. The spiritual body separates from the physical body. We've lost being in tune with our spiritual body, and we only live for our physical. Why? Because the Europeans teach that there's no such thing as spirit. So if you don't think it exists, you never look for it. You never try to figure it out. You never try to analyze it, study it, master it. That's what the master teacher came to educate us about. That's his whole mission as a spiritual master teacher, to educate you about your own spiritual nature. But if you keep listening to the European, the European tell you that doesn't exist. And that's only in movies. Like the movie you're watching right here. That's movie. That's fake. And we listen to them. We listen to them. And that's our problem. We listen to them and they just lie and they lie. Yeah, and they put the truth right in your face. You know, the truth is right in your face, but you buy the lie when they tell you, nah, that's not science. That's not real. You know, so they lie. They lie. Okay, so I introduced you guys to, we did an in-depth discussion about our principles. Okay, and I'm gonna sign out here. That's a lot of data. I want you to take it in because we're gonna do a part 2 to this. Okay, where we're gonna go into. I didn't have time because I didn't want to take too much. I didn't want to make this too long because I want to go into the books where all of these principles are coming from in our doctrine. Where am I getting all of this information from? But I want you to digest the concepts, and then, then I want to go into the actual books, because I only talked about this one book right here that the master brought out, that, he put out in dealing with the SMAT circle. And keep in mind, he first introduced us to the SMAT circle back in the 1970s when he wrote the books, the Nine Ball series in the 1970s. This is not a new concept for those who might think this is new that Dr. York is teaching. No, it's not new. The master teacher put this information out back in 1970 when he wrote the Nine Ball books. He was talking about this information way back then. Anyone who has the Nine Ball books, parts 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, there were 4 parts to it. The new books we have today, called the Actual Facts and the Patriarchs, are an update of the Nine Ball books. The books the master teacher was writing in the 60s, called the Bible Interpretations and Explanations, parts 1 and part 2, that came out in 1967, 1968. All of the books we have today are updates from those old books. They've been updated for today's knowledge. Because when the master first was putting this information out in the 60s and the 70s, the people weren't ready. Our people weren't ready. We were all religious based. In fact, I want to recommend a lecture, a very important lecture that I highly recommend you all watch, that the master did. This was a lecture he did back in 1996. The master did a lecture back in 1996, and it was called "Why Did We Choose Islam?" You can find it on YouTube. Why did we choose Islam? He's talking about why did he, because he first was teaching Wu-Sabat in the 1960s, and he realized, okay, that kind of spiritual knowledge that our people mentally wasn't ready for, because they were so indoctrinated with religious theology, Judaism, Islam, or Christianity. Black people was like, I'm a Christian. I want to hear what you're talking about. Or I'm a Muslim. I ain't trying to hear what you're talking about. Or I'm a Hebrew. I ain't trying. We still think like that today. Don't get it twisted. We haven't changed in 60 some odd years, unfortunately. But a lot more of our people are now spiritually minded. A lot more of our people today are tapping in to our ancient African culture. That's why a lot more of our people are identifying with Egypt, because remember, they made Egypt the bad guy. A lot of our people think Egypt, they enslaved the Israelites. If you think you're an Israelite, right? Those Egyptians enslaved us. That's what the Hebrew Israelites be saying. We ain't talking about no Egypt. Egypt enslaved us. They believe that stuff. And it's sad, because Egypt is facts that you can't, that's actual facts. You can see the culture, the magnificence of an African society, Egypt and Kush. Those are facts. Our ancestors are real. But all this religious, as I was saying before, the religious stuff, those are not facts. Those are beliefs. Beliefs don't supersede facts. I was listening to Sonetta the other day. Our good brother, Dr. Walter Williams, he was talking about that. He was talking about that on Sonetta. He's like 93, I think he was saying. And I was impressed, because he was saying, I'm like, facts supersede belief. He had a little saying, a slogan. I forgot what he said. I need to study it. It's really cool. But he was just saying facts supersede beliefs every day of the week. The master has been teaching us that for eons. But our people love beliefs, man. They can't get around the beliefs. And we keep telling them that those scriptures were plagiarized. They don't want to hear it. That knowledge, that's not there's a lot of knowledge in the Bible and the Quran is real. Don't get me wrong, that stuff is real. A lot of it is real. But it's been stolen. It's stolen information from ancient Egypt and ancient Samaria. They got knowledge from Hindus in that Bible. They got the knowledge from the Persians, the Zoroastrian in that Bible. Christ, Krishna. That's where they get the concept from. That's Hindu doctrine, Krishna. Krishna, Christ, same thing. And the Hindus got it from the Egyptians, us, our ancestors. We had Kailash. From Kailash, you get Krishna. Krishna, you get Christ. So, but you have to know the history. Once you know the history, you know where this information come. But I'm trying to find that before I close out. I have that lecture. Let me see. Because you really need to study this lecture here if you really want to be in tune with what I'm saying. Then you have to study this lecture. I said a lot today, and this is the last little piece I wanted to put out there. The last little piece, if I can find it. I'm trying to find it, but for whatever reason, I don't see it right now. Here it is. This is the name of this is why we use Islam. Why did we use Islam?
Give yourself the opportunity to know the truth.
And the master teacher in this particular lecture, he goes into our origins, why he stated what his mission was, what his purpose is, because he's talking about the whole point of our whole culture is resurrection. The rapture, we talk about the rapture, to make contact with the masters, to communicate with the masters. You have to be resurrected. Your third eye have to be reopened in order to communicate with our family on the higher realms. In order for them to be able to relate to you, you have to get out of the slave mind, this spell that the Europeans put on this, the spell of Leviathan. You have to conquer that, because we've been taught that the white man is God. We love serving the European. You have to get out of that mentality. Once you're able to get out of that mindset and fall back in love with blackness, then our ancestors are able to communicate with you. They can't communicate with you because when you're thinking on the frequency of the Europeans, because that's a frequency, that's a mindset and all. And so your mind had to be reset. Your frequency has to be reset. Your tones had to be reset. And that requires the right knowledge to reset your thought process. And once your thought process is reset, your third eye will open. But your third eye won't open unless you overcome the bad habits. And that's what's kicking our butts. It really is. We can't overcome the bad habits. We find it so difficult to overcome the bad habits. That's why the master teacher was trying to deal with the children, because the children didn't have those addictions. But you see what happened. We turned against the master teacher, let the dragon take him. And so now, he's not even here to guide you on how to do it. So each individual has to figure it out on their own. And so I want to get into that. Like I said, on our next discussion, I'll go into the actual books, but I want to recommend this lecture where he's going into why he taught a certain way. And what his goals were, his objective are, why we chose Islam. This, like I said, this lecture came out in 1996, I believe. Okay, in 1996, and he's explaining, why he did what he did, chose what he chose, and the way he did it. Why we use Islam? Why did he use that culture? He was basically saying it was an easy culture because he was using, because keep in mind, for those who are familiar with how when we was living back in the 70s and 80s with the master, we called ourselves Ansars, and Ansars are connected to Islamic group in the Sudan. The master has blood connection to the Ansars. And why did we choose that culture? He was talking about why we chose Islam. A lot of it had to do with the unintelligence of the culture. He was saying he was dogging it out, but he was able to use it as a camouflage because he was really teaching Wu-Sabat or Nawapu using Islam. If anyone really understand what we were doing, and I can do a whole lecture just on explaining how even in the culture of Islam we were still using Wu-Sabat, because we was doing things in Islam that other Muslims did not do, and that's what they attacked us for it, because they're like, where y'all guys get that information from? We were teaching things that no Muslim teach or talk about, and they thought, oh, this guy is making up stuff. They didn't know he was infusing our ancient cultural principles that Islam stole their culture from, and he was giving us the pure teachings using Islam as a cover, and that's because our people wanted to call themselves Muslim. They didn't want the pure unadulterated African indigenous culture. We weren't mentally ready for that, because again, we've been taught to hate ourselves, and we reject everything that was African, because the white man taught you came from a primitive, you bones in your nose, run around in diapers in the woods, and you're hunter-gatherers, and so he indoctrinated us with that thought, and he plastered hunter-gatherers on TV and make you come from a primitive people, not knowing you came from a very advanced society. In family, the pyramid should have gave you a clue that you had some high technology, but they're good at what they do. They're brainwashing. So with that being said, that was a lot, family. I know it's a lot. Take your time, study. I'm sorry that I've been gone for so long. There's so much more information that we have to put out there that that we got to get to our people, that you all need, especially in this day and time. We only have 5 more years left to the year 2030. You're supposed to be resurrected. Family, it takes about 30 days. If you do real serious spiritual work, you can open your third eye. Okay? There's no way of resurrecting without learning to open your third eye. And that's how you learn how to make contact with the masters. So I'm going to do some detailed discussions on that process, how to do it. And I'm going to show you through our books, right? As the masters laid it out. Like I said, it's unfortunate that the master teacher is not with us, because he's our guide. He's the one to show you how to do it step by step. So because we allowed the dragons to kidnap him, he had to put all this information out, scattered in our books. And if you don't know how to piece our books together, you can't put the picture together on what to do and how to do it. And so that's what I'm here. I want to help you do. So I'm going to move you through and show you from book to book on everything I was saying about the principles, that we live based on the principles. Like I'll show you this one book right here. This was a scroll that came out. Hold on. This is a scroll called the Bridge to Salvation. The Bridge to Salvation. You go to page. This book is only about 6-7 years old. I go to page, let's see, 48, page 48, paragraph 265. It says this: yet, as for those of you who stay in Wu-Sabat, who trust their own Sawat voice and control their own Ka spirit, right? Control that get those negative spirits, right? Control them, and have held on to Wu-Sabat and have stood by our principles, you will eventually have the privilege of beholding the many faces of your Muslafu ancestors. Once you live by our principles, that the principles I've been talking about, right? Your third eye will open and you'll be able to make contact with the masters again, your ancestors who are on the higher abodes. It's all in our doctrine. That's the point. I'm going to give you another one. This is this scroll is real quick. Where I'm at, page 116. Go to page 1. This is called the 9. This is called the 9. This scroll again came out about 6-7 years ago, something like that. A decade ago. You go to this page. We're on page 114. Page 114. I'm gonna read this real quick. Pa Muisasu Wahi. Pa Muisasu Wahi. It's called the ones who are principles only. You see that? The ones who are principles only. Lehe Kaleh Munuapu. no, all to all Nawapians, Rakuk Penen Hakak al Hakak. Know this actual fact. And Nun Butim Hayum, Wutim Ajub, Wutim Sajud, Wutim Yadu. We don't adore, nor admire, nor prostrate, nor worship. Pa mithal at aweh, mithal at imnun muslafu, the idols or statues of our ancestors. Shabah athum, at the wahi yasasat. Their images are only principles. And kum lazim thahum pafef. You all must understand that. Shabah nushuma, their likeness. Ranan at huma, their names. And whom at the yasas at laha. And kum leke fahum nafashkum. They are principles for you all to understand yourselves. So remember I was talking about the principles of Ma'at, the principles of the Hutri, the wisdom of the Hutri. These are principles of our ancestors, concepts that we live by. And when we live by that, we became that. So that's why you'll see ancestors call the Hutimos, right? Thutmose the first, Thutmose the second, Thutmose the third. Why did we take those names? Because you was Tahuti in the flesh. You represented that principle. Amenhotep the third, Amun. You represented the principle of Amun. Or you say Amenhotep. Hotep was one who was in tune with the peace. Hotep, Amenhotep. In tune with the blackness of existence, that the hidden one. He was in that. That was that. When you said Amen, you was an Amen. That meant that you was in tune with your higher self, your spirit body. I just showed you, right? Dr. Strange, the spirit body, physical body, spirit body. That's the hidden part of you. That's the Amun, the hidden one. You have a living spirit, soul force inside you. So when our ancestors took on certain names, you represented that principle. You were that being. So when we say these deities are real, they were real. Ma'at, you were Ma'at. Those who represented that, the females and the males in our culture, they were living Ma'at. They represented that principle within natural nature. Our whole culture was rooted on these principles. And that's why I'll do one more. That's why we live by principle. Now, this scroll right here. Let's see, page 32. This is the last one. This is the Right Knowledge series. Right Now is breaking the spell on the blacks. This book came out in like the year 2000, 2001. Breaking the spell on the blacks. It came out in the year 2000, 2001, right? And let's see, where was just lost my space here. Hold on. Well, this is the last one I want to go before I close out. The last one, let me find that page though. What page was that? Oh, it's 30. It's page 30. So let's go back here. Go here. Page 30, last one. And I'm just showing you where this information is coming from, that our culture was always rooted in principles. We live by these principles, okay? And so we'll start from here, okay? And it says this is in a book, like I said, the scroll Breaking the Spell on the Blacks. That's the name of the book. That came out like in 2001 that the master teacher wrote. It says here, just as there are forces that can foretell the future, there are also forces that can tell you about the past. And Atum Ray, and that's the master teacher. That's another name of the master teacher. For those who don't know, Atumre, also called, right, Marduk in ancient Babylonian texts, and Amar Utu in ancient Sumerian tablets, the son of Enki, who is the son of Anu, your Allah or El Elo or Jehovah, that's what people equate Anu to, but has access to all forces. So the master is saying he has access to all forces necessary to retrace the past and foretell the future. That's why the master knows all these ancient stories about our origins, right? Because that's the spirit force that's moving through him. He has all of these memories. So he says he has access to all forces necessary to retrace the past and foretell the future. This fact made these scrolls possible. That's why he was able to write the books he wrote, because of that knowledge. You can acquire more information on this subject by joining the ancient Egyptian order. That's why the master set up these spiritual orders to teach us how to do those things. So we have the ancient Egyptian order, which is a higher degree of the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek. Now, the master introduced that order to us back in the 90s, the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, which was a higher degree of the Sufi order, right? The master, when he first started to teach in the 60s, we called ourselves pure Sufi. The Sufi culture was the culture of the Ansars of the Sudan. That's why we called ourselves Ansarullah. That was a Sufi culture, a spiritual order. Where the Sufis come from? The Sufis come from the Egyptian schools of thought. That's where the Sufi culture comes from, ancient Egypt, the mystery family. Listen to the lecture the master did called Who He, I think the name of that lecture, Who He, and the name Hu-He in ancient Egypt. He did a lecture called dealing with this concept Hu-He, and in that lecture, the master teacher explains that the Sufi culture came out of ancient Egypt, for those who don't know, okay? So from Sufi became Amun, right? The ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, and from that, you get the ancient Egyptian order. All of this was teaching us our spiritual science, our spiritual doctrine, okay? Says one authorized and appointed by the forces of nature is given connection and access to the powers of Re'e, the sun, and Pa'aha, the moon, and powers of Taha, the earth, the planet earth, that he may take his place in the sun, meaning in universal affairs, and all of his kind, this is the key, and all of his kind who are able to learn, understand, and accept universal knowledge and facts as disclosed by nine ether will also be given the same connections and powers for realization and maintenance of liberty, justice, equality, rightness, and survival beyond 2000 on to 2003 on to 2030, which is the cutoff date for pickup for our ancestors. But you have to restore or renew yourself spiritually, and you will have the same abilities of harnessing this knowledge, this data that the master has. He has access to this knowledge. It's coming from the higher realms. Once you develop yourself, you too. That's why the master developed those spiritual orders. The Sufi order, then we had the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, then we went to the ancient Egyptian order, right? Then he goes on to say, which is the order of Ma'at. The principles of Ma'at is the internal struggle for balance of your nature, commonly called the yin and the yang. You got to balance out the positive and the negative of your nature so that you can tap into your spiritual nature. You have to overcome that. That's why we live by the principle, again, keyword, principles of Ma'at, right? Consider Tob and Ra, or simply Kahat, which is agreeable, and Necha, which is disagreeable, and in ancient Tamaray called Ma'at. And Isfut dealt with disorder forces of nature, or Leviathan, and Ma'at, which is the positive forces of nature. Our culture is centered around that. He goes on to say, the war or the showdown between right and wrong that occurs in each individual, it is not a physical battle. It's a struggle with the heart, that is weighed against the feather of Ma'at. This is an internal battle, overcoming your lowest self, your negative behavior. That's what you have to master. You don't have to go to physical war with these demons on this planet. That's where most of our people got it wrong. That's because they don't want to give up their bad ways. That's why we have enough black nations, but the black nations we have, they're all in chaos. Why? Because most of the people, they're no different than a Caucasian. Because they got all the same bad habits. They're raping, robbing, pillaging, killing. We're doing all the same devilishment that we accuse the white man of doing. No different. Black devils, white devils. You have to clean up your nature. You got to get those negative forces out of your nature. That's what our original culture was about. And this planet, like I said, has been plagued for 6,000 years. Our people have been suffering under this lifestyle. Right? Why? Why have we been suffering under this lifestyle? Real quick, and then we're gonna close out real quick. Another thing I need to go to the Bible real quick. The Bible tells you. Genesis. No, not Genesis. Revelations. Let's go to 12. King James Version. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found anymore in heaven. When they said heavens, they talk about the heavens of the Orion, the star systems. These are beings from other star systems. These Bible ministers that have no clue what they're talking about. Heaven, they talking about some fictitious place. When they would talk, remember this information was plagiarized. They were talking about different star systems. It's in the Bible. If you go into the book of Amos or the book of Job, it tell you the different star systems that they were dealing with, the beings who were coming here. Today you call them extraterrestrials. Okay? These beings, there was a war among these beings that you see in Star Wars, right? You see these battles in Star Trek, movies like Star Trek. These galactic battles that was taking place. This stuff is not fake, family. It's right here in front of your face. It's just the translators and the people disseminating information isn't telling the truth, and they're not explaining it correctly. And plus, they don't even understand it, right? That's why it requires a master to come and explain what this information is about. Then it says, and the great dragon was cast out, right? He was cast out of these star systems that he was fighting in. That old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth. These demons were sent to earth. That's who we're living on the planet. Why you think this planet is so chaotic? You have demons ruling this planet. That's the issue here. He was sent into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. These beings were sent to this planet. They're on this planet. This stuff is real. It's not fake. That's who you're fighting against. And so when it came to this planet, guess what happened? Go to Genesis chapter 3. It tells you what happened when it got here. Genesis. Let me find it. Hold on. Genesis 3. So we'll go to Genesis chapter 3. And it's talking about it's talking about Adam and Eve in the garden. It says the serpent in the garden. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast in the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yes, has God said, ye shall not eat of the tree of the garden. This being is a talking being. They calling him a serpent. This is a being. And he's in this land. The garden was the master said this was actually in Saudi Arabia in ancient times. These beings, they came down and they was on the planet and all. And he was interfacing with the humans on that planet, these Adamites that were created. This being, these are real beings. And he was interfacing with them. And what's important about this point is they say something really important. The woman saw that blah blah blah. This is when they talk about she ate the forbidden fruit, and they heard the voice of God walking in the world. That's like I said, God is walking in the cool of the day, right? These are actual beings. No one points those things out in their Bible. All right, and then the Lord God called unto Adam, so that God speaks, right? These are beings. Again, I repeat. Who told you, blah blah blah, that you was naked? And the man said, the woman and the Lord God, blah, blah, blah. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast did this, a curse, blah, 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 beast, and it will go under the ground. And they will put enmity. Here's the key, verse 15, Genesis 3:15. Because Eve violated the commandments and listened to the serpent, these beings, right, they got punished by their overlords, Adam and Eve, the overlords, the beings that were ruling Adam and Eve. And here was the punishment. And he said this, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, right? He's talking about between the serpent and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, meaning the serpent would have a bloodline on a planet, and the woman would have a bloodline on a planet. These beings came to this planet 6,000 years ago, and they had a bloodline on Earth. Humans have the bloodline of these demons that came to this planet. These are ETs, advanced beings. They're humanoid looking. They look like humans. They look like people. They're advanced beings. You see many movies of humanoid ETs like Thor, the movie, they come from other star systems, they come to Earth. They come from other star systems, they come to Earth. That's who you're dealing with. They're the cause of all the chaos on the planet. Again, go to Genesis chapter 6. It tells you that. It tells you Genesis 6. And it came to pass when men began to multiply in the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, and blah blah blah, my spirit, and there were giants in earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters, had sex with the daughters of men, and they bare children. These are the children of those beings that were cast to earth. They have a bloodline on earth. The master's been saying this for eons, and our people don't want to accept it, and they don't understand why the planet is in chaos, because you have beings on the planet. And to help you make sense of this, that's why we said, study the UFO phenomenon, research that subject matter so that you know it's real. How would you acknowledge your own ancestors? They're also beings. When we say we're calling on our ancestors, or we're praying to our ancestors, or we're communicating, we're talking about higher dimensional beings. And you have positive ones and you have negative ones. Remember, everything in nature is balanced. Everything in nature is balanced. There's always a positive side to things and a negative side to things. You have the proton, the positive charge. You have the electron, the negative charge. Nature couldn't exist without the balance. Nature couldn't exist. Don't ever forget that. So that was a lot. Take your time, family. I know it was a lot of information. I'm sorry for all of these delays and putting information out there. We're going to have another delay next month because I had to go away for a few weeks in June, but I'll be back. Hopefully the next, lecture I'll post in the first week of July. Actually, I'm trying to get something before I leave, but I'm going to be out of town coming next week. Hopefully I can get it out before I leave if I can, because I want to touch on a little bit more of the books where a lot of the information about the principles and stuff like that is coming from. because it's so much. It's a lot. And I don't want to, I don't want to make this too long. It's already long. But I hope this helps. Any questions, by all means, contact me. Put comments. That helps, right? Spread the word. Spread the word. Support what we're doing at Nupal. I haven't been talking about Nupal, nupalcc.com. That's how we're gonna grow. Each one teach one, support what we do. That's how we grow. The very, very, very last thing is where's that book? We put this book out, this book right here. Where is it? I thought I had it. I thought I had it. Okay, I don't have it. Let me see if I get this last book that the master put out, The Maxims of Yanun. The Maxims of Yanun. This book came out probably about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. And this last thing I wanted to read, the master talks about in this particular book, The Maxims of Yanun. The Maxims of Yanun, right? And this came out. Very important. It's a book of sayings of the master teacher, but this right here, he says the lock is your heart, right? The feather of mat weighs your heart. That's the seat of the soul force. Your soul force. When your heart is restored, your soul is restored. When your heart is restored, your soul is restored. That's what King David was talking about in the book of Psalms. He restored my soul, because you can lose your soul. When you lose your soul, you lose your connection to nature. When you lose your soul, you lose your connection to nature. And it's moving through your heart seat. Your heart is the center of your emotions, your desires, your lust. And that's how you lose your soul. When you live by your desires and lusts, you have to control that. You have to overcome that. And that's how you restore your soul. So your heart, the lock is our heart. And the key is the doctrine. The doctrine is what teaches you how to restore your soul. Right knowledge is what teaches you how to restore your soul. Once you restore your soul, thus love and unity, that's how you embody divine love. And once you embody in the body of love, then you unify. You love, you want to be around what you love, right? You hang around what you love. That's how you get the unity. Love and unity will free me. It is your task, your test. That's the ultimate test, family. But you can't get unity without the love. You can't get the unity without the love. You can't get the unity without the love. You must use the tools you have been given. The tools is the right knowledge. Each one teach one. Spread this doctrine. That's where I get it from. Each one teach one, family. You have no excuse. And as the prophecy says, all ayin at eyes shall behold him. No one will be able to say they did not know, yet they took not the time to know. Referred to the Holy Tablets, chapter 6, tablet 17, called the Judgment. It expired in the year 2000, the Holy Tablets with the Bible and the Quran. In this cycle of the hereafter, the first 1,000 years of the hereafter cycle, as we renew our story for those who will be left behind. The 1,000 years is the process of this planet moving from the third density into the fourth density. By the time we get to 1,000 years from today, we'll be fully integrated in the fourth density, a fourth density cycle. That's this planet and the universe is moving into a 4 ether cycle. And in the next 1,000 years, it's going to take about 1,000 years for that to completely lock in. And we won't be in the third density anymore. And all species of the third density will become extinct. All species of the third density will become extinct. All the humans that are locked into the third density, when they transition, physically die, they'll just reincarnate back to a planet or star system in the third density. They won't be able to move into the fourth density. All of those who resurrect or develop themselves spiritually, they'll be able to move into the higher density. Third density species can't exist in a fourth density environment. It's like you trying to move to Mars, and you can't live on Mars because of the conditions on Mars. Your physical body couldn't live on that kind of planet. And so the conditions, that's why you see all these, the nature is changing, the natural disasters, the conditions of the planet is changing. It's getting hotter, and it's going to get more hot and more hot. And conditions, only beings who are vibrating on the fourth density will be able to exist on this planet. Lower density beings won't be able, animals, creatures, all of the species that can't move, shift, that's called the dimensional shift, will cease to, they'll go extinct. They'll go extinct. That's a lot. That's a lot. Let me, with that being said, family, take your time, study it. It was a lot of information. Any questions, just ask. Any questions, just ask. Again, love is the key. Love is the key, or the doctrine is the key. Love is tool, the heart. It's in the heart center. Love your people. Fall in love with blackness again. That's how we win. Fall in love with blackness again. Don't allow the dragon to distract you. Don't get obsessed with money. Make money, right? Take care of yourself, but don't become obsessed with it. Don't lose your soul for it. Restore your soul. Restore your soul. Conquer your bad habits. I know it's hard. Conquer it, and then, we'll get back to ruling again. With that being said, Wadu, Muisa, Wadu, love you all. Be strong, and peace, peace, peace.